good evening po sa lahat. It's already 7:35. Ngayon. Ouch. It's already 7:35. Kumusta po ang lahat? Please open your camera. Cameras po natin. So, let's for anything else. Let's sing a song. Chinel Go Kanta. Let me share my screen first.
수려한 꽃봉오리 사랑의 장미 희망의 새 소식이 만발하도다 고대양 육대주 천주까지도 세태평성대 길이 빛내세 자유천이고 숭고한 하늘빛깔 순결의 백합 선하고 빛난 정신 이어가도다
Okay, thank you so much po. Before my request for the opening prayer, um, Ate Margie Magsipok to lead the opening prayer. Hindi po kita narinig, Ate Margie. We add you. So, narinig niyo po ba, brothers and sisters? Okay. Wala po kaya na Ate Margie.
Nakamute po ako, ate. Wait lang po. Narinig po ba kanina, ate?
Sorry. Ate Margie, balikan na lang po kita mamaya po kasi maingay po siya. Okay lang po ba maulit po tayo ng prayer kasi hindi pa natin narinig? Okay, Ate, Christinette, kayo mag-pray to lead the prayer.
Okay po. Please join me in prayer. Our dear, most loving Heavenly Parents and victorious true parents of heaven, earth, and humankind. Heavenly Parents, good good evening to you, Heavenly Parents and true parents. Heavenly Parents, thank you so much for this day that you given this night that you give it us a chance to be with you. Together with my brothers and sisters, uniting as one. Heavenly Parents, may this night be victorious, and hope my brothers and sisters will be participate well in this um, lectures parents that we tackled, and hope that our mind and body will unite our parents, and hope our hearts will be connect on what words of encouragement and enlightenment that we heard this night, our parents. Our parents, we offer this to you um, with so much love, gratitude, and humility in my heart, in behalf of my elders, brothers, and sisters, in your parents' name, Aju.
Jew. Yes. Thank you so much, Ate Christinette. Yes, once again, good evening, elders, brothers and sisters. Good evening po. Welcome to our 6 days of Divine Principle online series. So, ngayon, bago tayo mag-start, mag-recap muna tayo bago tayo mag-picture. Baka may darating pa na iba. Okay. So, okay lang po ba tayo mag-short recap lang? Kahit one participants. Yung recap lang po last week na topic about the human fall. Then, expectation for tonight's topic. So, ayun lang. Who wants to share? Yung may voluntary heart. Sino dyan? Na gusto mag-share? Okay. Nakasmile siya. So, so I want to volunteer Kuya Vince. Share to recap lang po. Welcome, Kuya Vince. Please unmute yourself po. Naka-mute po kayo. Okay.
So, good evening po.
Good
Ano nga po
evening.
yun? Recap about sa
Last week topic about sa human fall.
last week topic was about the consequences of the human fall, section 4 and section 4. Section 4 and
Yes.
I think section 6, that is section 5, freedom freedom from the and chapter 6, kalimutan ko yung chapter 6. Ay, hindi, section 6 pala. Kalimutan ko po yung
The reasons
the reason why God did not interfere from the human fall. Yan lang po.
Yes. So, Tirilina. Anyway, thank you so much. Yun naman po talaga. Tama naman po yun. Kasi yun po yung, yung title ng topic ng Section 6. Tama po ba? So, about a human fall. So, nandito na po yung ano ko po, partner po. Naka-prepare na po, Kuya Julius. Okay na po ba kayo? Okay, before anything else, please open your cameras po. Let's take a picture first before we begin. Okay. Mga beans. Kuya Vince, nawala po kayo.
Hello po.
Yes, okay. Okay na. Let's smile, brothers and sisters. Okay. Mohana, Dulcet, smile. Okay. Okay, second. Okay, second. Vision 2020. Vision 2027. Sungni, sungni, sungni. Last one. Last one na lang. Ibaragi Shinang. Okay, Baragi Shinang, brothers and sisters. Thank you so much po for your cooperation. Okay. So today I would like to welcome our lecturers to welcome him. So my partner for the whole the Divine Principle online virtual series. So he will discuss about the chapter 3, eschatology. And eschatology and the human history. So please help me to welcome our very own elder, Kuya Julius Escleto. Please give a hand, brothers and sisters. Okay, while waiting for Kuya Julius. Sinong gustong kumanta? Mga singer dyan. Alam ko. Sino happened? Prejudice. Ouch. Okay, may request po tayo dito. While waiting for Kuya Julius, Ate Jonah, di ba last time po, di po namin kayo nakalimutan. May promise po kayo yung kakanta. Baka naman. Ate Jonah.
Hello, good evening, everyone.
Okay na pala. Save si Ate Jonah. Sige, okay, welcome po Kuya Julius.
Yung screen ko, nakita na ba?
Opo, palaki na lang po Kuya.
Can it cannot be an slideshow. Yan, okay na?
Yes po.
Okay.
Okay na po kayo.
Hello, good evening, everyone.
Good
Sorry
evening po.
for the delay, a little delay. Okay, good evening once again, everyone, and welcome to our online Divine Principle lecture. So, how's everyone? Doing good? So, this evening, I'll be discussing chapter 3 of the Divine Principle, which is eschatology, or the doctrine about the last days and human history. In chapter 1, you learned about the principle of creation, but I will not elaborate on this because it has been lectured already in detail. And chapter 2, the human fall, and now chapter 3, eschatology and human history. So if I ask you about human history, can you answer in definitive? So the answer is no, because we dwell in ignorance of our history, uncertain about its origin, the direction in which it is heading, and its final destination. So maybe if I ask you about Philippine history, it would be no problem. Other nations' history, also because we can just search it. But with regards or concerning human history, we lack knowledge and clear understanding about it. And aside from that, also concerning eschatology or the doctrine about the last days, many Christians believe literally what is written in the Bible. Like for example, in 2 Peter chapter 3, verse 12, the heavens will be kindled and dissolved, and the elements will melt with fire. So everything will be dissolved, and all elements will melt with fire. And the other one is in Matthew chapter 27, verses 52 to 53. The graves were opened, and many bodies were raised. And also in First Thessalonians chapter 4, verses 16 to 17, the dead in Christ will rise to meet the Lord in the air. So one pertinent question for Christians is whether these events will take place literally or whether the verses are symbolic, as are many parts of the Bible. And there are Bible passages that also refutes this. So in First Corinthians, Ecclesiastes chapter 1 verse 4. It is written, a generation goes and a generation comes, but the earth remains forever. So it will not dissolve. And also in Psalm chapter 78, verse 69, it is written, he built his sanctuary like high heavens, like the earth, which he has founded forever. So the earth will not be dissolved. So to address this issue of whether it is literal or symbolic, we have or we should understand such fundamental matters. Number one, this one, the purpose of creation, the meaning of the fall, and the goal of the providence of restoration to address this issue. So let's go to the section one, the completion of God's purpose of creation and human fall. So the completion of God's purpose of creation. So we know that the establishment of the kingdom of heaven is through the fulfillment of the three great blessings. Yes or no? So it is in Genesis chapter 1, verse 28. Be fruitful, multiply, and have dominion over the creation. In plain language, this one, individual perfection, family perfection, perfection of dominion. So a person who is emotionally sensitive or has emotional sensitivity to the heart of God, intuition and reason to comprehend his will, and the requisite abilities to practice it, it has perfected his individual character. So God endowed us with that emotional sensitivity to his heart. So if an individual's mind and body enter into a give and take action centered on God by forming this individual proposition foundation, this individual becomes one in heart with God. So God abides in such a mind of a fully matured person who reached or perfected his individual character or reached individual perfection. So such person becomes the temple of God. So we can understand the Bible verse in First Corinthians chapter 3, verse 16. It is said there that, do you not know that your body is God's temple and God's Spirit dwells in you? And in John chapter 14, verse 19, Jesus said, he who has seen me has seen the Father. Okay, that's the level of a person who attained individual perfection, becomes one in heart with God, attained oneness with God. He who has sent me has seen the Father, Jesus said. And in John chapter 14, verse 20, in that day, you will know that I am in my Father and the Father in me. Okay? So this is the first blessing, individual perfection. Now, the second blessing, family perfection. So had Adam and Eve reached perfection or perfected Adam and Eve, joined in loving oneness as husband and wife, centered on God, then they would have born good children. Okay, then founded sinless family from that foundation, and a society in complete concordance with God's blessing. So they would have founded the substantial kingdom of heaven, which consists of one great family with the same parents. So this is the second blessing, family perfection. And the third blessing is perfection of dominion. So people of uh, perfect character, okay, dominate, having dominion of love towards the rest of the creation, centered on God. Then they would have create a pleasant social and living environment, rapid advancement in science. So that's why we can understand in chapter 1, chapter 5, why God endowed human beings with responsibilities in order for them to inherit the creative nature of God and participate in his uh, God's great work of creation. And second is to become worthy, to become the Lord of the creation as creators also. So through this, that we could make really an environment of a kingdom of heaven. So even though they are perfect, but they are living on primitive circumstances, like cavemen, it would be kingdom of heaven, yes or no? So not kingdom of heaven. So they will co-create, no, becomes the Lord by through science, no, creating pleasant environment, social living environment for all of humankind to make truly a kingdom of heaven. So kingdom of heaven is where such an ideal is realized. So based on the fulfillment of the three great blessings and God's purpose of the creation is to build the kingdom of heaven first on earth. So that's why we can understand also the Bible passage in Matthew chapter 6, verse 10. Jesus Christ encouraged his disciples to pray for the kingdom of heaven to be realized here on earth as it is in heaven. When he said, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. But due to the fall, human beings united with Satan and became his dwelling places, acquiring an evil nature. So instead of uniting centered on God, because of the fall, human beings united with Satan and became his dwelling places. So instead of individual perfection, uh, they acquired evil nature. So from that foundation, people with evil nature propagated evil through their children, constituting evil families, evil societies, and an evil world. So this is what we call hell on earth, in which we have been living. We have established the sovereignty of Satan. So that's why we can understand the Bible passage in John chapter 12, verse 31. Satan is the ruler of this world. And also in 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 4, God, okay, Satan is the God of this world because of, that's the result, because of the human fall. Section 2, God's work of salvation. So God's work of salvation is the providence of restoration. So God intended to create a world of goodness and experience from it the utmost joy. Yet, due to the human fall, the world came to be filled with sin and sorrow. So, if we look back on the purpose of creation, God wanted, especially human being, as the center of the universe, to be His object partners, embodying goodness, that He might take delight in them. So God wanted to create from that, from individuals, then ultimately to the world, a world of goodness, and experience from it the utmost joy. But it was not realized because of the fall. Instead, the world came to be filled with sin and sorrow. So if this sinful world were to continue forever in its present state, then God would be an impotent and ineffectual God who failed in his creation. Therefore, God will save this sinful world by all means. So, to save a person suffering under the yoke of sin or bondage of sins means to restore him to his original sinless state. So, to save a person from fallen, we have to restore him to his original and fallen state. So, in other words, God's work of salvation is the providence of restoration, restoring him back, saving him, but restoring him back to his original and fallen state. Now, section 3, the last days, the meaning of the last days. So, the last days is this time when, with the advent of the Messiah as the turning point, the evil world under satanic sovereignty is transformed into the ideal world under God's sovereignty. So, the last days is the time when, with the advent of the Messiah, this satanic sovereignty is transformed into God's sovereignty. Or, in other words, hell on earth will be transformed into the kingdom of heaven on earth. So, therefore, it will not be a day of fear when the world will be destroyed by global catastrophes. In fact, it will be a day of joy when the cherished hope of humankind, the desire of the ages, will be realized. And today is the last days. It is because the last days is that transitional era when evil changes to goodness. So the providence of recreation will take place amidst chaos, just as God created all things from chaos. God has been working on resolving the evil world Satan established first and is gradually establishing a world of goodness. So since human beings fell, God has made many attempts to restore the original world. Nevertheless, at each attempt, human beings failed to fulfill their portion of responsibility, thus thoroughly frustrating the will of God. Consequently, dispensation of the last days have been repeated several times. So, since the fall of our first human ancestors, God uh, has made many attempts to restore the purpose of creation, the ideal world, the original world. But in his attempt, the problem is human beings failed to fulfill their portion of responsibility. So frustrating the will of God. That's why the last days have been repeated several times. Just like in the days of Noah, it was the last days. And also in Jesus' day, it was the last days. And now, the day of Christ's second advent is also the last days. So, to understand the Bible verses concerning the signs of the last days. So, in Peter chapter, 2 Peter chapter 3, verse 12, again, the heavens will be kindled and dissolved, and the elements will melt with fire. But there is also this other verse, like in James chapter 3, verse 6, that the tongue is a fire. So here we can deduce that judgment by fire is judgment by the words of God, because uh, because of this verse of the tongue is a fire. So the other verse also, that then we shall be caught up together in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air. In First Thessalonians chapter 4, verse 17. And we know that the air or heaven is often a symbol of or for the sinless world of good sovereignty. And earth also is often a symbol for fallen world under uh, evil sovereignty. So meeting the Lord in the air means that the saints will receive the Lord in the word of good sovereignty. When Christ comes again and restores the kingdom of heaven on earth by defeating the kingdom of Satan. So it is the advent of the Messiah as the turning point that could be able to restore, realize the substantial kingdom of heaven on earth. It is because only the Messiah that could remove our original sin, uproot, liquidate our original sin. And that could be the, the start of transformation from fallen state into an original and fallen state. Yes or no? And that it would expand to families, society, then ultimately the substantial kingdom of heaven on earth. So transforming from individual and then hell on earth will be transformed into the substantial kingdom of heaven on earth. Okay, that would be my topic this evening. That ends my lecture. And now I'll call my partner, Sister Monina, to continue with the section 4, which is the last days and the present days, and section 5, the last days, the new truth, and our attitude. So let's help me to welcome Sister Monina for the continuation of the lecture. Let's welcome Sister Monina.
Yes, thank you so much po, Kuya Julius. Um, Kuya, yung ano niyo po, screen. Just allow me to share my screen. So, Kita siya. Yeah. Good evening.
Evening.
Okay po ba, Tijay? Narinig? Wait lang. Hindi ako. Okay. Once again, thank you so much po, Kuya Julius. So, Kuya Julius discussed about the chapter 3. So, I would like to, continue later. We will accept your questions and some reflections. But at this moment, I will continue my topic. Okay. My topic for tonight is about the section 4, the last days and the present days. Clear po ba, brothers and sisters?
Yes,
It's okay po ba?
very clear.
Hindi ko makita eh. Okay po. It's okay. I would like to turn off my video first. Okay. So, signs of the restoration of the first blessing. So, we can deduce that today is in fact the last days examining by examining the various circumstances of the present age. We can recognize in these circumstances the restoration of the three great blessings. So as what Kuya Julius says that earlier in the section 1 about the three great blessings. First is the perfection of individual character, and then the second is the perfection of the family, like was for Adam and Eve to form a family society world where goodness reigns. And then lastly is gaining dominion over the natural world. So the first blessing is perfection of individual character. Ba't hindi siya na-mix? Okay. First, the spirituality of fallen people is being restored. Ang ibig sabihin ng spirituality of fallen people is being restored is, example, yung ano natin, yung pagka being kind, makikita natin sa tao yung prayerful siya, then reading God's words. Yan yung siya sa spirituality. Second, history moves toward the recovery of the freedom of the original mind of fallen people is a sign. Now, it means yung magkakaroon tayo ng kanang conscience. Parang, uh, example like, we are free if you do good or if you do bad, you're a prisoner of your own self. Parang something like that nga na quotes. So, third one is the restoration of the true human value of fallen people is a sign. From the horizontal perspective, every person possesses equal value, but that does not do justice to his worth. So, from the vertical perspective of heaven, each individual possesses the loftiest cosmic value. Bali, sa present era, as democratic ideals have flourished. Parang, ano siya, 'di ba in the politics, 'di ba sa mga politics, if parang majority wins, for like example, kung yung sa politics, if ikaw yung nga tao na yun is marunong ka makisama, parang you have yun na what we call this, action. If you are the marunong ka makisama, di marunong ka makipaghalubilo sa iba, para ikaw yung pipiliin ng tao. So, yun yung ibig sabihin ng true human value. Then, last one, last original true love in fallen people is being restored. So, di ba, in solidarity and empathy are attained when people join together in the love of God. Bali, di ba sa ating church, sa church natin, we feel that we have a much kanang true love. Dito mo ma-feel kasi 'di ba, yung yung individuality natin, pero meron tayong tinatawag na purity before marriage, 'di ba? We have matching and blessing dito. So dito natin ma-feel yung yung love. So bali, parang to you just give without expecting something in return. So yun yung siyang ibig sabihin ng anong tawag nito, especially sa training natin dito sa sa church. From this, we can see that the present time is the eve of the last days when we can reach perfection of individual character. So ito yung ibig sabihin ng ano tawag nito. Itong section na to dito. Then, second, signs of the restoration of the second blessing. God's second blessing was for Adam and Eve to form a family, society, and world where goodness reigns. So, so as what I've said earlier, so ito yung pangalawang blessing na ma-receive natin through sa uniting the through the if hindi nag-fall si Adam and Eve, so na-fulfill nila. So, uh, I mean, if na-fulfill nila yung responsibility nila to being matured and build an ideal family, so it's siyang result. So accordingly, the signs of the internal and external restoration of God's sovereignty signify the restoration of the second blessing. This manifested as trends in the history of the development of cultural spheres and in the history of the rise and fall of nations. The history of the development of the cultural sphere. Let us first study the history of the development of the internal cultural sphere. God has sent prophets and saints to fallen humanity to found religions. He works to develop them through the original minds of those who seek goodness. In this way, God builds up cultural spheres based upon religions. Many religions have left their mark on history. Among them, the religions which, with the greatest influence, form cultural spheres, the major cultural spheres which have existed at various times. In world history, numbers between 21 and 26. With the flow of history, lesser cultural spheres were absorbed by or merged into the more advanced spheres. Through the evolution of cultural spheres, as they were buffeted by the rise and fall of nations, four great cultural spheres have survived to the present day: the East Asian sphere, the Hindu sphere, the Islamic sphere, and the Christian sphere. Di ba marami tayong mga different religions. So, meron tayong Buddhist, Christian, Islam, and then the Hindu. So, ito yan siya. So, the current trend has these four spheres forming one global cultural spheres based on the Christian ethos. The history of the rise and fall of nations. Next, let us look at the external history of the rise and fall of nations. The purpose of history must be to cut our ties with Satan and restore God's sovereignty of goodness. In order to achieve the purpose of the providence of restoration, history must go through the process of wars and divisions. sorry. The wars which have shaped the rise and fall of nations are thus unavoidable during the course of the providence to reestablish the reign of good. This history of conflicts among nations have served the purpose of cutting off Satan's ties to humankind. History has progressed to the point where God's side can now reclaim territories and wealth all over the world. The providence to reclaim people began from lone individuals, alone individuals called by God. God's foundation has progressively expanded to families. Um, mhm. Okay. And sino kita? Mhm. Okay. Next. So these are the signs of the restoration of the second blessing. Internally, at present, signs of the restoration of the second blessing. Internally, at present, all races and peoples are increasingly coming to stand side by side as brothers and sisters under the love and guidance of Jesus Christ. Therefore, externally at present, our world is divided into two: the democratic world, which seeks to create societies on God's side, and the communist world, which has been establishing regimes on Satan's side. These opposing forces are at the point of intersection. 'Di ba sa ano yung section na yun? 'Di ba sa other nga kalaman yung paniniwala nila na yung pagbabalik ni Jesus Christ is usually came from the clouds. 'Di ba yun yung paniniwala ng Jews? Tama. Then 'di ba at saka yung iba namang iba namang religion, ang yung paniniwala nila is Jesus is came from the flesh. But yun nga kasi 'di ba yun yung paniniwala nila ngayon darating yung Messiah through the clouds. Kaya 'di ba hindi nila na-accept si Jesus kaya na ano siya, what we call this parang hindi nag-iisa yung mga tao. Yun. So, yung sa democratic world, usually yung ano nila, yung yung goodness nila, parang ano siya, parang from ano talaga, they created from like what I've said earlier that they're doing good from ano siya, partnership sa from God's side. Then yung communist, yun yung talaga mga ignorant, something like that, ng mga tao. Then, hence the present age is the last days because the second blessing is being restored. This one is the signs of the restoration of the third blessing. The third blessing means gaining dominion over the natural world. Internal dominion denotes dominion of the heart, and external dominion denotes proper mastery of the creation through science and technology. So, ang ano dito sa internal dominion, dito natin maano talaga yung parang um, para nangingibabaw yung nangingibabaw yung ano natin, parang ko sa Tagalog pa, kagandahang loob, centering on God. Then sa external dominion naman, dito tayo sa ano, sa parang technology, mastery through the science. So internal dominion, a person who reaches perfection and comes fully to resonate with God in heart, would experience God's heart as his own reality. Hence, he will be able to love the creation with the same love as that which emanates from God's heart and appreciate its beauty with the same delight as God. This is the meaning of dominion of the heart. So, yun nga. Dito natin ano ma-experience yung ano ni God, ng God's heart. Then, external dominion had our first ancestors reach perfection and attain internal dominion over the creation, able to love it with the same heart as God. Then, the sensibility to the spiritual dimension of creation would have developed to the highest degree. This would have stimulated the rapid advancement of science. Diba? Sa atin ngayon is um, parang sa paniniwala lang parang to see is to believe like that. 'Di ba? Yun yung sa ano sa science talaga. Third one is the signs of the restoration of the third blessing. Internally, God's providence of restoration through religion, philosophy, ethics, and so forth has gradually elevated the spirituality of fallen people toward God. In the modern world, there is evidence that people are regaining the worthiness to govern the creation through heart. Parang itong era na to, 'di ba? Even though we have itong religion is ito yung ano siya, ito yung way natin para ito yung way natin para ma-love natin yung ma-love natin yung individuality. At the same time, ano siya, parang ito yung guidance natin to connect with ano God, 'di ba? Even though we have a different religion, 'di ba? Yung paniniwala natin, but yun din isa lang yung ano natin, yung God. Externally, modern people have built an extremely comfortable and pleasant living environment through the economic progress that has accompanied scientific development. So, yun, dito naman sa ano, external dominion, 'di ba super advanced yung ano natin, yung ano natin technology, then yung economic progress and pleasant living environment, 'di ba? So kung wala pa tayong ano ngayon, kung hindi pa dumating tong COVID na to, 'di ba? Parang continuous yung ano natin, parang ang bilis na ano na progress. But through this ano naman COVID, there's a positive and negative na dumating. So, signs of the establishment of God's third blessing, we are conclusion. To summarize, the world's cultural spheres are converging toward one global cultural sphere based on one religion. Concurrently, nations are moving toward forming a world government centered on the United Nations. In the sphere of economics, the world is moving in the direction of establishing one international market, highly developed transportation, and communication technology have overcome the separation of time and space. People today can travel and communicate with each other almost as if they were all living in the same village. People of all races can meet with one another as easily as if they were members of a large family. Diba? Dati if ano talaga, if you're in the province and then um, if yung may isang family, 'di ba, if their children are working in Manila example, 'di ba? Wala pa ganun ka technology, wala pa tayong cellphone, 'di ba? Usually ang ginagamit natin is telegram or something sulat-sulat. Ang tagal ng process, 'di ba? So ngayon is isang ano mo lang, seconds lang ganin nakarating na. So parang ang bilis ng ano talaga because of that technology. So hence we can understand that God has been restoring the environment where humanity can find and attend the returning Lord. The returning Lord. So yun siya dapat. Section 5, the last days, the new truth, and our attitude. So na ba talaga yung ano natin, attitude? If you say the last days, this is like a symbolic from 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 the Satan pa to returning to good side, parang something like that. So the last days and the new truth, God assess ignorant fallen people to elevate their spirituality and enlighten their intellect through spirit and truth. By this means, God conducts His providence to restore people to the original state before the fall. And yeah, spirit and truth are unique, eternal, and unchanging. However, the degree and scope of their teaching and the means of their expression will vary from one age to another as they restore humankind from a state of utter ignorance. Therefore, modern intellectual people to realize the truth, a text with richer content and a more scientific method of expression is needed. This is the new truth. In biblical verses about the new truth, as Jesus said, if I have told you of earthly things and you do not believe, how can you believe if I tell you heavenly things? 'Di ba? Parang sa ano lang yun siya. Paano ko sa iyo maano mas ma ma mas paano kita mapapaniwala parang something like that. If 'di ba sa ano nga there's a saying that to see is to believe, 'di ba sa science? Parang something like this then in this term. So he died on the cross without being able to teach. All that was in his heart due to the disbelief of the fallen people, disbelief of the people of his time. What is more, Jesus added, I have yet many things to say to you, but you cannot bear them now. From John 16, verse 12. Disclosing how sorrowful he was about the inability of even his closest disciples to receive all that he wanted to share. And Jesus promised that in the last days, he will give us the new world of truth. I have said this to you in figures. The hour is coming when I shall no longer speak to you in figures, but tell you plainly of the Father. From John 16, verse 25. So, malish yung mga ano sa mga Bible verses. Sa our attitude in the last days. A new dispensation begins when the old dispensation is about to end. 'Di ba? Ito yung siya sa old, 'di ba? Sa ano natin, if we don't know yet about age, then this is the um wait lang.
So,
Uh, begin this period at the end. So those who live in the period suffer internally from anxiety, fear, and confusion due to the absence of a guiding ideology or philosophy. They suffer externally from strife and battles fought with fearsome weapons. Di ba sa atin is, paano ba natin ma-change yung sarili natin? Ano ba yung magiging attitude natin? If, example, if ito na yung last days. Parang, di ba kung sa New Year, if sa may New Year, example lang ha, sa New Year, lagi tayo na gumagawa ng mga reflection, mga, New Year's resolution nga ito magbago na ako or something mag-change ka na. So, paano ba natin mai-apply dito sa the last days? 'Di ba? So, ito yan siya. Then, and the made midst of such wretchedness, God without fail will establish the center of the emerging good sovereignty in order to usher in a new age. Diba? There's parang like that a saying that a new dispensation begins with the old dispensation is about to end. So ito yung siya from here to there. So ito yung ano siya. So needs then this one. And then you mag ano siya. Parang tong ano na to. Yung old nating lifestyle. So because we already the principle of hindi siya totoo ano talaga last days na oh. Pag if we hear kasi last days parang sa labas tayo, di ba? If you say like pagkatapos na ng ano, but this in our in this people that last days is parang from Satan's sovereignty transfer to God's sovereignty. So we should not be to the spirit in order that we may find the truth which can guide us to the providence of the new age. So, ang ano nito, ang new age natin is magkaroon tayo ng center of all sovereignty. Through ano, the last. So, ito yung ano siya. Okay. So, that's all. That would be all for my topic for tonight about the section. About the section 4 and section 5. Yes. Thank you so much po, brothers and sisters, for listening. Okay. So yeah. Um, okay. Hope, brothers and sisters, may nakuha kayo. If, ilang oras na? 8:42. So, kaya Julius, may ano po ba kayo? Appointed one nga mag-share or there's something question nga pwede ano natin i-entertain from the participants po.
Okay, you can write your questions on the chat box or directly question to us. And for reflection, brother first, si Vince. Let's welcome Vince for his reflection on the
Kuya
topic.
Vince, you're the chosen one.
Good evening. Good evening po sa lahat.
Good evening.
So, may reflection po sa chapter chapter eschatology and human histories. Ano po, as a lesson contributor. First of all po pala, thank you sa both of the lecturers po, Sir Julius and Ma'am, for the recap po about sa chapter 3. So, may reflection as a person candidate. Uh, Sana po maano talaga namin. Try our best to make an endeavor po para ma-foster po namin yung application po ng mga learnings na ano namin, na learn ngayon. At saka po, the human history, to ano, to really um, uh, really ano, para maano po talaga excited. Ay, hindi. Sorry. Hindi, eschatology. Eschatology pala. Sorry po. Latangin ko yun. So eschatology, ang aming, now, ang attitude pala namin, hindi dapat, ano, yung natatakot ka, kundi, to, ano, but maging masaya ka pagdating ng the last days. So, um, moreover po, um, uh, apply, um, we will do our, best endeavors po to re- return to our original state, and uh, so that we could be really be suitable for the our original position, and really really do our responsibilities po to make God happy, and to be in the new beginning, the new sovereignty, which is God's sovereignty po. So, yun lang siguro po yung so thank you po.
Yes, thank you so much po, Kuya Vince, for that. Okay. Nakafocus ako sa YouTube. Wait lang. Kasi siguro, let me share my screen para lahat po tayo makapag-reflect. Allow me to share my screen. Okay, next reflection. Okay, who's the lucky one? Ah, yes. Okay, Ate Jinky, you're the one. Hindi ka dito. Okay, okay. Let's
Yes,
go.
good evening to our lecturers. Narinig ako.
Apa.
Our lecturers, our brothers and sisters. Yeah, I think for tonight yeah our topic for tonight, theology. Yeah, and the last days. Yeah, how much more we are knowing about the divine principle, actually the living as the last days. How much more actually we already know. Yeah, our beloved true parents at this time. Yeah, but of course, learning and deeply understand the divine principle within this time. Yeah, how we could really um, live our life, of course, centering to our heavenly parents and true parents. As at no matter what at this time, whatever we do, we always need to think that we are really blessed that our true parents really laid the foundation at this time to really how much we can be able to receive the lesson course that we are yun lang naman yung reason why the real reason why we are really pursuing. I think that's all my short reflection for tonight. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so much, Ate Jinky. Please give a hand, brothers and sisters. So yeah, that's what Ate Jinky says that um, because we have already two parents this time, we have two parents, so we're so lucky enough because we know about the last days, right? So all we have to do is to really practice and Didi So, yun siya. Take our responsibility as individual. And, okay, lahat. Next. Lucky. Mr. Lucky. Number Luba. Achar. Okay. Ups. Josephine. Ate Josephine. 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 Please unmute po ate. Ate Josephine po. Kayo po yung
Yes.
pili ni God.
But
Mag-reflect.
pwede mamaya. Hindi ako nakasulat pa eh. Next time, next ako, next.
Okay po
Please.
ate, balikan po na.
Ah, ah,
Okay, balikan po namin kayo ate.
ah.
Huwag po kayong corrupt. Char. Okay. Let me share my screen. Okay. Ate Anami. Kayo po. Ate Anami.
Good evening po.
Welcome po. Good evening.
Um, the last day is the transitional era when evil changes to goodness. And now, today is the last day. We who are alive today, we should cultivate a humble heart and not be strongly attached with the conventional concepts, but rather with should direct ourselves to be receptive to the spirit in order to find the new truth and do our portion of responsibility also. That to be all. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much po ate Janami. Tama po ba? Yes, yun nga, responsibility. So, always, ano talaga, remind us. So, even though, true parents fulfill the 95% of responsibility, so we have our 5% left that we could be able to really, fulfill, di ba? So, belong na po yan yung ano natin, individual, to get blessing, and first yung individual, ano natin, character, perfection of individual character, then family, then dominion over the creation. So, yun yun siya talaga. So, paano natin siya ngayon may apply in the last days? So, di ba? Yun yung ano natin ngayon. So, even though if we say that, um, yeah, parang ano lang natin, if hanggang sa parang sa turn pa, if parang hanggang sa salita ka lang na wala man sa gawa, parang it's nothing, di ba? So, yun yun siya, yung ano. Then, next one. Nahirapan kasi ako magpili, so i-will of names ko na lang.
Yes,
Allow me
para
to share again the screen. Ay. Kuya? Oh,
Nawalan ka ng sounds mo, Nens.
Yeah, I think mahina po yung low connection po si Ate Monina at this time po, Kuya Julius, I think.
Okay. Ah,
Opo.
okay, sino yung na ano na, yung sa wheel of fortune. Sino yung na ano doon? Napili
Kayo
doon?
na lang daw po mamili, sabi po ni
Okay.
Ate Monina.
Okay, sister naman. Si Christinit, Joanne. Okay, let's welcome Christine for her reflection.
Good evening po sa lahat, especially the lecturers, elders, brothers and sisters. Good evening po. My reflection po in the topic that we tackled po is first is the three great blessings po that we just I am such a overwhelmed and amazed by true Father who search this kind of knowledge po. And I'm so in my first knowing this when I attend 7 days, I am not I'm a little bit shocked like is this true the last days. Ganyan. Then I'm such a I think so many things that time, and especially these three good blessings, that is this the really the things that God has want us to do. And I'm so much thinking that time. And then when the times goes by, I really realize that this is one of the times that we just think God's wants and God's feeling right now, seeing us achieving that dream that He want us to do. And I'm so much encouraged by my elders here in Bohol who do it or have already do the second blessing po. And I'm this time that we know that this is our last days, and I'm so much what do you call, parang po, parang na motivate po na gawin yung mga things na dapat ginawa pa po that time that our ancestors committed po sana. And I'm so much this time po I'm so po sa like yes the attitude po na paano ko pa talaga yung attitude ko towards God this time po, and this ideal person po that sana po ma-fulfill ko po. And I'm so much finding that thing po na dapat magawa ko po yun this time po. Dapat di na po mabalik kung ano po yung nagawa po ng ancestors po natin that didn't obey God's commandment po. And this last days we tackled about the things that we so much understands God's hearts po talaga, that may we can realize po na this time would be not di na ma-repeat, and this time po sana is the things must be fulfilled na po, that our descendants po is will do the things that our here in the presence po will be achieved po. And I'm hoping for that I could do it. And yun lang po. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Okay, this time again, brother, about Patrick to give his reflection. Okay, let's welcome Patrick for her reflection.
Good evening, elders, brothers, and sisters. So, for my reflection, we discussed about the eschatology and human history. So, I remember that it was said in the lecture that the purpose of history is to restore humanity. Then reflecting with it, it took many even thousands of years before our true parents came to, to earth, to this world. Then when reflecting it with what I've learned so far now about the suffering heart of God. It took many years, thousands of years before God really received this kind of comfort that he that he received when true parents fulfilled their mission as a Messiah. Then also, before meeting this movement, my concept of the last days was really the literal one that is told in the Revelation. But based on as what I've learned in school, so those things that is stated in the book of Revelation in the Bible is really not can't be possible. So I'm so thankful for the movement because I learned that it is not literal but symbolic. That really my attitude towards the last days really changed because of this learning, and so I really learned that we shouldn't be afraid of the last days. Instead, we should be happy because it is the time when humanity is going back to God's bosom. So really, I'm thankful because of this lecture. Again, I am refreshed with all of the learnings. So that would be all. Thank you.
Okay, Patrick, for your internal reflection about the last days. The orientation of the, so many Christians believe literally what I now we clearly understood that this last days a transitional era from when goodness, evilness change to goodness. So it is transformation. It is bigger. There will be no transformation if there's no Messiah, because only the Messiah can remove. So that's the point. He restored the unfallen state because of the Messiah. So that is the hope of humankind, the cherished hope of humankind, and it will be realized because of the Messiah. Okay, thank you, Patrick, for the reflection. So, sister, again for another reflection. Si Sister Margie. Okay, let's welcome Sister Margie.
Hello, good evening brothers and sisters. Naririnig po ba kuya? Okay,
Yes.
thank you po. For my short reflection my short reflection po for our last topic about the last days throughout section 1 to section 6. Keyword lang po yung nakuha ko doon is first we must to um, complete the three great blessings kasi ito lang po yung way na we need true parents, or we need the Messiah in order to fulfill the his will. And then yung last days kasi hindi siya yung literal na tinatawag natin is global catastrophes po na yung maguguna po yung mundo. At the same time po, yung last days is ito po yung sinasabi natin na sa divine principle na end of Satan's dominion. So, yung last days po is hindi siya yung literal na tinatawag natin na the time of fear, but it is the time of happiness because from Satan's dominions, ito na po yung tinatawag natin na makakat off na po yung blood ties natin kay Satan. Going to God's lineage. Ito yung tinatawag na last days. Ito yung is one of our elders nagsabi sa amin na ano daw po yung pinaka-importante is past ba, present, or future. So, mas marami sa amin nagsagot na future. But he said, present is the most important kasi dito natin yun mababago lahat eh. Yung past, and then makaprepare tayo in the future. So ito yung inano ni true parents sa atin, which is the three great blessing. So first, you have to be fully mature. So last is why God, yung tanong ko lang po is why God totally saved us. Kasi si God nag-work kasi si God siya yung father na hindi hindi siya nag-accept ng failure. At the same time, he created us as his children. At the same time, yung spirit self natin kasi hindi siya temporary. Ito yung pinaka-importante sa lahat natin is yung spirit self natin is eternal. So yun yung sa last days po, ito yung pinaka-importante sa especially po sa akin kasi na-twist po yung mind ko. At the same time po realize din po. So thank you so much po sa mga brothers and sisters po na always remind us as a beginner po. Thank you, Adju.
Thank you. So, actually, as faith, we have to this one firstly is how we could receive the blessing of the blessing, meaning removing our original sin. So by inclining on being based on the word mind. Again, for reflection, Sister Juna May. So let's welcome Sister Juna May for her reflection.
Hi po, good evening po, brothers and sisters, elders, and lecturers. For my reflection, we talk about is eschatology and human history. So, parang na-realize ko po that we human beings are really ignorant po sa history. Kasi po, I mean, human history, also God's history. And then, I am imagining things po na parang si God ay isang author ng isang book, but He cannot govern. I mean, hindi po siya makakadictate sa mga characters niya like us. And parang pong unfair man, parang kung ako po magbe-base by God, parang ang unfair natin kasi God tried many times. God attempt several times na para po ma-restore tayo po sa original state. And then the last days have been repeated din po many times. So I was also shocked that baka po today can be the last day. Ganun po. Kasi po, I myself, I am also trying to be perfect as well as my brothers and sisters. And imagining po sa mga, knowing this kind of lecture and seminar, mixed emotions po yung natatanggap ko every time na nag-meet po tayo. So, kahit po siguro, ay kanang tawag nun, lahat po tayo dapat mag-reconsider sa mga bagay po na malaman natin, but we must also have these precautions to ourselves para po like our elders or sino po pwedeng mag-guide sa atin to the path that God wants us to go. So, di po lahat ng parang, dito po nalaman ko na Bible says all truth, but the truth itself is malalim po talaga yung Bible. So, I am really thankful na parang mas nalaman ko po deep down kung ano ba yung ibig sabihin ng ganito at ganyan. Then, I am also curious sa why we have many religions, why science and religions cannot reconcile now, but I believe that we have this principle na we can adapt science and religion for us to overcome this intellectual and external aspect of ignorance. So, hopefully po, yung parang yung second coming po is ma-welcome po natin. So, yun lamang po ay maraming salamat po. Good evening po.
Yes, thank you, Sister Jonah. Why we have so many religions? Because parts of the Bible are in parables and symbols. When one interpreted it, then he, based on his interpretation, he can create his own. So Jesus did not tell everything because of the level of the spirituality of the people at that time. That's why he said if you know figures, that you plain explanation of the Bible. And through this, everything can be united. It is because everything, all the parables, symbols, in the Bible can be explained plainly. So everyone will be united with that new truth, disunity of science and religion. So it is this of uh, the second advent of the Messiah. Okay, thank you. Sino pang, wala bang question? Sino pang hindi nag-ano pala?
Kuya, si Ate Josephine.
Si Miss
Si,
Josephine.
si Josephine. Okay, let's welcome Sister Josephine for her reflection.
Paikliin ko na lang yung reflection ko. Siguro someday
Ate,
magiging
please
memory lang.
unmute yourself po.
Ano ba? Iikliin ko na lang yung reflection ko. One day we will be just a memory for some people. So better siguro na let's do na our best to be a good one. Yun na lang.
Ano daw?
Sabi ko, paikli ko na yung reflection ko. Sabi ko,
Sorry,
okay,
nawala ako.
sabi ko, one day magiging memory na tayo sa ibang tao. So, mas mabuti siguro gawin is maging mabuti na lang tayo. Anong ganon? Hindi ko ma-elaborate tong mahaba eh. Thank you!
Okay.
Hindi nyo naintindihan.
Short but
Na lang po, short na lang.
Meaningful.
Yes. Yeah, one day we will have a memory for some people. So, let's do our best to be a good one. Shinortcut ko na lang po. Thank you.
that would be our goal to ultimately the first blessing, right? Individual perfection. So restore that inclination. Okay, so sino nga kanina?
Tapos na po sila lahat, kuya.
Questions?
Yeah. Tapos na sila. Pero hindi ko alam. Wala ba kayong question, brothers and sisters? Daw.
Question si Christinette.
Anong question niya? Bakit maraming religion? Di ba yan? Or why did God save all of us? Ano yun ba yan?
Hindi po.
Ano yung question, Miss Christine?
Yung question ko po is about last days po. Di ba po, last days is ngayon po. And we said that last days is that yung mawawasak po yung mundo or ganun po. Like our brothers and sisters didn't know this kind of seminars po eh. Yun po yung nasa utak nila. And actually po, nandun po din po sa mga sa Bibles po that last day sa mga revelation po, di ba na may lindol, may yung mga po, any tawag doon? Any kalamidad po, di ba? Also, my question po is para po to sa mga taong they didn't know what is last days po. What is that ano po, the new age po ngayon, but bakit po nagkakatotoo yung ibang revelation sa Bible po na kalamidad?
Okay, let's welcome si Rina for
Bakit may ka? Ah, just like ang unang last days, di ba, is yung kay Moises. Sa Noah's time, may last days doon kasi last days in the sense na uh, dun sa word ni Father, kailangan kasi, ano ba yung word ni Father? Kailangan kasi there must be tribulations. Based kasi dun sa chapter 1, may di ba? Origin, division, union. Origin, division, naka union, di ba? So, sa last days kasi, kailangan merong parang nagkatotoo yung mga calamities. Totoo yun, kasama kasi yun sa kasama kasi ngayon sa pag-divide nung good and evil. Kasi God cannot as we have learned sa chapter 1, God cannot relate with people, with sinful people or faithless people, di ba? Yung imperfect people, hindi siya makarelate, hindi siya makarelate doon. So, he needs to divide humanity, or kailangan may division ng good and bad, di ba? Na ito yung absolute good, ito yung absolute bad, di ba? Nang sa ganon, mangyari yung mangyari yung pagbabago from Satan's dominion to God's dominion. So, yun, kailangan talagang ma-divide yung good at saka yung evil. Ayun. At bakit kailangan, kahit ayaw ni God siya, alam naman natin na nung after the flood judgment, di ba? As we have learned in history, after the flood judgment, before the flood judgment, nagalit si God talaga dahil masyado nang masama yung tao. And then he decided, nagsisi nga siya, ba't niya ginawa yung humanity, di ba? Why did he create humanity? Kasi naging masyado na siyang masama. So, nag-decide si God na na ginawin or tapusin yung mundo. Pero sa totoo lang, merong warning, di ba? May sinabi niya kay Noah na wag na yung mga maniniwala sa kanya, masisave sila, di ba? So kaya nga may Noah's Ark kasi 8 tao yung yun. 8 tao yung tao dito, yung naiwan. Yung 8 na yon. Siyang pag-uumpisa ng humanity. So yun yung hindi sila totally talaga na absolutely good, pero sila na yung pinaka-least evil. 'Di ba? Yun yung hinahanap ni God sa last days. Na yun yung pag-uumpisahan niya. So, kasi darating talaga, ano ba yung mangyayari sa last days? Darating kasi yung hindi na fulfill ni Adam and Eve in the hindi nakapagbuo ng pamilya ni God through Adam and Eve. So pagdating ng last days, magkakaroon magkakaroon ng bagong pamilya si God at sa pamamagitan ng Messiah. So, kailangan dumating siya, pero meron dapat maniwala sa kanya na pag-uumpisahan ng Messiah, di ba? kung wala naman taong maniniwala dun sa Messiah, yun, kaya kailangan i-divide mo. So, magiging useless yung Messiah pag dumating siya. Yun yung kaya kailangan i-divide mo yung mundo into good and bad. Kaya nga unti-unti, pag dumating yung Messiah dahil nag-umpisa siya through his foundation, mawawala yung kasamaan. Kaya nga sa last days, it should be, hindi siya nakakatakot. Nakakatakot siya, parang sinasabi, yan din ang kinakatakutan ko before I have read the divine principle. And I was so, yun yung sinasabi ko sa inyo nung last meeting, uh, I was so thankful about the divine principle when I read the divine principle itong last days na to. Doon ko nakita talaga na walang physical hell, di ba? Yun. Na hindi talaga magugunaw yung mundo, yun yung nakakatakot, kinakatakutan natin. Na pag sinabi natin kasi yung magugunaw yung mundo, judgment by fire, ibig sabihin, di ba, parang, di ba sinasabi, is it not my word like fire? Yun sinabi ni Jesus Christ, di ba? Hindi ba parang yung word ng Messiah is like fire na nakaka-burn nung kasalanan. Yun yung ibig sabihin nun. That's why judgment by fire. Yun yun. At hindi din natin maiwasan kailangan kasi mag-suffer yung tao. Ibig sabihin mag-suffer yung tao kahit walang magawa si God na kailangan mag-suffer yung tao nang sa ganun, mapatunayan yung mga tao na naghirap o nag-overcome nung trials na binigay ni Satan para makabalik kay God para hindi tayo so that we can Satan cannot accuse the children of God. Na hindi niya pwedeng accuse na hindi tinulungan ka naman ni God eh. Parang gano'n, yun yung sinabi niya. Parang wala tayong karapatan na umalis kay Satan at bumalik kay God nang hindi tayo nakakapag-overcome. Yun yung ibig sabihin lang nun. That's the reason why merong talagang tribulation yung mga taong pumupunta o yung nagtatry na pumupunta kay God. Kaya sa panahon natin, sa practical application, pag tayong matakot dun sa trials and suffering na kinakaharap natin kasi normal yon as we try to go to Heavenly Father, pabalik sa Kanya. Kasi Satan will block us and try to stop us through these trials na natatanggap natin. That's the reason why we need to overcome. Nang sa ganon, we will be ma-justify natin yung self natin pabalik kay God at walang Satan accusation. Yun yung ibig sabihin nung tag dito. Yung question niya, nangyayari siya kasi yung timing kasi ng last days is kasama din yun dun sa plan ni God eh. Kung mapapansin nyo, yung catastrophe, alam ni God na mangyayari to eh. Kasi nga, kaya kasama sa timing, hindi nagkataon yan eh. Alam ni God na mangyayari na to, nang sa gano'n mo overcome din siya. So, ganun siya, yung tamang-tama yung timing alam ni God, yung right timing. Diba may sinasabing God's time, yun yung sinasabi natin. Yung mga yan, naka-timing lahat sa God's time. Ngayon, yung mga tao ni God, kailangan maging very sensitive dun sa time. Especially sa last day. And we are actually, sinasabi nga natin, dito sa we are living in the last days. And we must be very, very grateful that we are living in these last days. Kasi hindi ito yung mga ancestors natin, yung mga nauna sa atin, even the saints and sages, they would like, ibig sabihin, they would want to be living in the last days like us, but it is us who live in these last days. Yun yun, we are grateful kasi meron chance tayo na magbago, papunta kay God, at baguhin yung history ng humankind papunta kay God na hindi nagbigyan ng pagkakataon yung mga nauna sa atin. Even how devout they are, pero tayo yung napunta dito. That's why we are standing on the foundation laid by all those saints and sages and central figures in history. So we must be very, tawag dito, very thankful that we are the ones in. Pero magiging judgment din talaga sa atin, wala. Magiging judgment din talaga sa atin if we don't do our responsibility. Yun ang nakakatakot doon. Kasi if we don't do our responsibility, and then and we fail to do it, kaya nga sabi ni Mother, di ba? Wala nang God cannot wait anymore. Kasi ang tagal na naghihintay ni God, di ba? It's time for us to do truly our responsibility. Yun yung God's, yung sabing bakit parang pareho, parang nagkakatotoo yung catastrophe. Yes, it's the catastrophe happened because, or the natural catastrophe happened because alam din ng God naman yung timing eh. Parang dun din sa di ba sa Moises time. Alam ni God na na yung Red Sea is maglolotay dyan na bababa yun. Yung ganon. Alam ni God yun. Kaya sabi, hintayin mo yung sabi ko, bababa mo yung staff mo kapag sabi niya kay Moises, di ba? Kasi alam ni God yung timing nun. So, yun. Ganon din yung nangyari sa mga, ganon din nangyayari dun sa mga natural catastrophe na nangyayari sa atin. God knows yung timing talaga nung yun. Kasi 'di ba, sabi sa science, we have this natural cycle. Even sa climate change, yung natural cycle ng phenomena, natural siya. So, yun. Alam ni God yung perfect timing para doon.
Let me add.
Yes.
So, sorry pag umuubo ako minsan. Dito COVID, pero may ubulan talaga. Alright, sa question about last days. First and foremost, divine principle is like, you have to, like, it should be understandable based scientifically and written based on religion, right? Kung titingnan natin sa science, law of gravity, yung sinasabi nilang maugunaw ang mundo tapos babagsak ang mga bituin, tapos ganun. That is against the Newton's law of universal gravitation. Kasi the smaller objects dapat yung babagsak sa malaking object. And depende din sa distance. Tsaka magkaroon ng hila ng gravity. And kaya nga perfect yung distance natin, di ba? Ginawa ni God perfect yung distance every planet. It is because it is the principle of creation. So it is impossible for nowadays that those catastrophes will happen. Scientifically explanation. How about kung titingnan natin sa divine principle. Time ni Noah, it is still under study if it is true or not. sa science, it's true. Even sa religion. Only religious people believe that the time of Noah, the last days of Noah, is true. But sa science, they're still under napag-aralan pa. Na sinasabi may part daw ng art ni Noah na nakita dito sa may parting ganito. Different places all over the world. Na sinasabi ganun. But whether it is literal or symbolic, kasi ang Bible kasi halos lahat sinasabi ng Bible, it is not literal. Most of it are symbolic. So, pero hindi natin malalaman kung totoo siya o hindi. Ang point natin dito is, there is last days happen during the time of Noah, whether it is literal or symbolic. And it will happen nowadays. Hindi dahil, sinabi naman dun sa Bible, di ba, dahil sa rainbow na yun, hindi mangyayari yung flood. Sabi naman ni God. I hope you are reading by the Bible also. So yun. My conclusion is that last days is different now because it is transformation and transformation of the world to God's sovereignty. Ibig sabihin, mas matutuwa pa tayo kasi 'di ba? Mas magiging maganda pa yung mundo natin. At yung last days, the world will change through the Messiah. That's the point. But it will always start with a single person. And that is we should be grateful always with true parents because we are on the last days and we are part of the last days, you brothers and sisters. We are part of the change. We are part of transforming our brothers and sisters in transforming this world into a better world. Kahit ano pang religion mo, whatever your religion, just join with us and let's change this world. That is the last days. And don't forget, without true parents, without the help of the Messiah. Nangyayari lang naman yung last days, it is because it is also the time where the Messiah was born and the time where we should also help with the Messiah. So yeah, I hope it's clear sa mind natin na those catastrophes, di ba may nakikita naman tayong mga sunog, baha, lindol. Do you think gusto yun ni God? What do you think? Anybody can answer? Yes or no? Do you think kung gustuhan niyo ni God? God doesn't allow his children to die. Which means 70% of things happening na nangyayari na sunog, baha, those calamities, it is because of human beings became irresponsible of the Mother Earth. That is the point. May babaha ba pag may babaha ba yung isang lugar kung may tanim, kung may mga puno? Obviously not, right? So susunog ba yung isang lugar kung maganda yung temperature? Kung hindi pinuputol yung mga puno na doon nagka-cause ng heat. Hindi, di ba? Simple as that. Pero may mga bagay talaga kasi that is part of climate change. Yung sinasabi niya na kanina. Part of climate change. But only few calamities. But 70% of it, it's because of humans irresponsible. So let's have this great blessing para maayos yung mundo natin. First blessing muna, individual, tapos second blessing, tapos dominion, madali na lang kasi we have to plant more trees, we have to take care of our environment. Wala na, hindi na tayo matatakot na, especially Philippines, di ba? Hindi na tayo matatakot sa baha kasi marami na tayong tinatanim na mga puno. Ay go. Anyway, yeah, I hope you learned something, and I hope it clears your mind, brothers and sisters. Thank you very much.
Okay, I'll add also of our spirituality and intellect is not so developed yet because now we are using mostly fuel, no? Oils like that. That cause really so much for to have this climate change that could cause this floodings and many. It is because one also is greediness. And now I think we have starting to make this electric everything will uh, go into that, then we can have a good um, environment that could make this uh, climate change. So yeah, one thing is also the greediness of those having those irresponsible and just for for themselves, caring for themselves. And the principle that these things are that we should be joyful that because of the Messiah, because only the Messiah can bring about transformation, an original sinless state from hell on earth into the kingdom of heaven on earth. Sister Monina.
Yes po, kuya. Hello, narinig po ba ako?
Yes po, naririnig ka, ma'am.
Okay po.
Naririnig ka, Miss Manina. Ay,
Yung net po kasi mahina siya.
pero
Okay.
narinig naman
So,
kita.
um,
Narinig kita.
stop.
Saka, pero mawala-wala pala.
So,
Intermittent. Intermittent yung yung sound
so ready
mo.
na.
Are there any questions?
Hello, mic test.
Yeah.
No more.
May add lang po sana.
May add daw siya.
Yes. First, Janet.
Good evening po. May add lang po sana according to natanong ko. But I was di ba po may mga taong parang nakakahula po. Ganun. Tapos I was curious po kung is there po na send by God po ba yung mga hula nila or just yung mga prophecies po parang po may mga ano po kasi, may mga manghula po or mga ano po tawag doon, other term. Parang nagkatotoo po yung mga hula, ganun. So, I was thinking po or that question na, sent by God po ba yun? Or they're just searching it for the ano po, ganun po, di ba? Yun po yung parang ang main point po sa question is, sent by God po ba yung mga prophecies na nahulaan nila po?
All right. Thank you very much. That's a good question. Wants to answer? Lina.
Uh,
Laglag. Lag ka, Kuya Julius. Alright, so sa question, are they sent by God? Yung mga, sabihin na lang natin si Nostradamus. Sabihin na natin Nostradamus. This is a personal answer. I cannot say that baka kasi mabago ko yung naniwala niya. Actually, kung titingnan mo, lahat ng sinesend ni God, it is a preparation or lahat ng prophecies, it is a preparation. Kung nasa first part pa kasi tayo ng divine principle. And the second part, we will know those histories, why it happens. And Nostradamus or other revelations, I couldn't say much that they are sent by God because we all know the history how to prepare for the Messiah. Lahat ng nangyayari kasi na lahat ng providence ni God is doing it in order to prepare for the Messiah. Now, if that revelation is in accordance with the welcoming of the second coming of the Messiah, then I would say that is that is from God. But if it is not in accordance with the preparation or welcoming of the Messiah, then I should say it is not. And kung titingnan natin yung mga revelations na nangyari ngayon, they're not actually absolutely nangyayari. Yung iba lang, di ba? Sabi yung mga catastrophes nangyayari siya, di ba? Alright. Without question, meron naman talaga dati pa naman, meron naman catastrophes dati. Pero yung marami na sabi 2000, mag-end of the world. Sabi na, tapos 2012, April, mag-end of the world. Nung hindi nangyari ang April, in-extend nila sa December, tapos 2012. So, natapos in 2012, 2030 na, so, what's the point? So, hindi nangyari yung mga revelation na yun. So, it is, and I'm not really sure. I cannot say that. Absolutely not. Maybe it will guide, but not. No, I'm not. I couldn't say that. But I should say, this is my personal answer. I should say that it is not a revelation from God. But there are some person like Martin Luther who is guided by God. He has this very important mission in order to establish, in order to have this revolution and to prepare for the coming of the Messiah. Yeah, that's one of the really God's will. Pero yung mga naririnig natin, I'm not really sure of that. Right, so next, is that answers your question? Okay na lang. Hindi satisfied si Christine.
Ano po, okay naman po. Na-understand ko naman po yung point. Salamat po.
One thing also, narinig ba?
Yes, kuya.
Yes.
One thing also, we know that of the three great blessings. The first blessing is the spirituality of
Wala ka, kuya.
people.
I think sa internet.
Okay. Wala.
Anyway, we have few minutes left, so we can end actually. Yung mga question you can ask next meeting na lang. Okay? Sa mo na yun. Right. Wala siya. So, I hope you've learned tonight, brothers and sisters, about the last days. Next meeting is, chapter 4, the Messiah, and the purpose of his coming. So, I think you have a lot of questions. Yeah, and about Jesus Christ. Yeah, marami. Anyway, it's marami. Marami naman nandito naman sila, Ate Relina, Julius. Sometimes, I'm not around because, I'm not feeling well. All right, then, so let us end this evening. Don't forget to write your reflection. Ate Manina will send the link group chat, and I will read. Me and Randy and the other lecturers will always read your reflection, and from there we will form questions also. Wala kayong itanong next meeting, so kami yung magtatanong. Tingnan natin kung naintindihan yung lecture. Ano kaya lecture next meeting? Okay.
Oo nga, inisip ko nga kung sino eh. Baka sila Ate Sylvia.
Sylvia.
Saka Hinky. Ganun, biglang ganun.
Alright, so
Tapos
tell ko parang inantok na yung iba. So, who wants to pray?
pwede bang i-volunteer ko si Kuya Patrick?
Sige.
Elders, brothers, and sisters, please join me in prayer. Our most beloved and gracious Heavenly Parent and our victorious true parents of heaven, earth, and humankind, our Heavenly Parent, thank you so much for this lecture that we have received from our elders. Our Heavenly Parent, thank you so much for always guiding us all throughout our lives. Thank you so much for all of the blessings that you have given us, for always giving us the things that we need, our Heavenly Parent. Thank you so much that you have really prepared the providence of restoration, that you have intended history so that it could really be a way for humanity to be restored. Our Heavenly Parent, thank you so much also for our true parents that we are able to learn all these things. And our Heavenly Parent, please always guide us as we go on in our life here on the physical world. This, our Heavenly Parent, I would like to ask and pray on behalf of my elders, brothers, and sisters, in true parents' name, Aju.
Aju. Yes. So much po. Please give a hand, brothers and sisters.
Very much. Sino nakapunta ng Talibon? Buhol ako sa Talibon. Nasa ano kayo? Sa Tagbilaran? Or
Opo, kuya.
Opo. Nasa Tagbilaran Center po.
Saan daw?
Tang Center?
Pagbilaran Center.
Pwede pa ako nakapunta ng...
Bilaran.
Kapag pan-racing na kayo sa Talibon? Pan-racing ba kayo? Hindi.
Hindi pa po.
Pan-racing.
Ay, good evening once again, brothers and sisters. Ano po, reminders po, please be on time po sa nagpass na mga reflections po natin. Okay. Ano? So, yun lang po. Thank you so much for everyone.
Thank you so much din po.
Ano ba sa Bohol yung maraming mahogan reforestation?
Ano po?
Love you daw, Lily.
Yung
Love you daw po.
May man-made dun, di ba?
Sa Bilar.
Ano?
Man-made forest.
Oo, yung maraming yung nawala yung parang nahuli pati lahat ng mga ahas. Kasi parang and yun, may canopy lahat.
Sabi ko,
Canopy.
kasi ayaw na kumain ng Albert.
Albert?
Kain kanina, tapos sabi ko kasi masakit daw ilon mo. Sasala lang muna.
Marami po kanina na gano'n.
You can leave na.
Naka-canopy siya.
Ngayon po, sabi ko po na...
See you on next meeting.
Sige po, bye po.
See you on Monday.
Monday, yes. Magaling na si Sir Herwin nun. Hindi na tayo iwanan. Ay, biglang naubo siya.
Na-miss niya mag-IG. So, may energy na siya.
Naubo pa rin ako.
May energy na siya. So, back sa'yo muna. Balik ko sa iyo lahat.
Wala, grabe naman.
Ganun yan di ba, te?
Welcome back po yan.
Welcome back! Ay! Wala, binutoy noon. Welcome back. Sa'yo na lahat. Christine, thank you so much po sa tanong. Nice. Ulitin Ate Josephine, thank you. Diba? Kuya Julius, thank you so much po. Sorry, yung internet ko talaga ayaw makisama sa akin. Kaya, ang dilim na. Yes, thank you po. Huwag po kalimutan natin yung reflection po.
I will po. At feeling well lang po kasi natrangkaso.
Sige po.
May sakit ka, nagtrangkaso ka din po, Miss Josephine.
Apo. Thank you. Good night.
Good night po.
Night po.
Para doon. Ay, mali. Nagutag gini si. Ay, sorry. Bisaya man to siya. Tingnan Terilina po. Pero hindi, thank you po ulit.